Hello guys, in this tutorial I would like to show a very basic technique to handle at least 2 or 3 levels in a category program. First, let's have a design table to be able to save 2 levels of categories. One is the main and the second table will be each subcategory. And if you know the way to do it, you can have several depth. But if you want to use unlimited depth in a category, you should not use 2 or 3 tables. I've got another previously created tutorial to handle unlimited depth, right? First, in here I'm gonna add a connection to a MySQL table, and I will work in subcat database called subcategories. For this you have to make 2 tables. One will be the first category. It will be 2 fields. One is the ID. Make unique names for the primary key. First ID. Its type will be an integer. Auto increment property, and click here to set up a primary key. First ID, it is the category. Category name will be a varchar, and the length will 255. Let's have a save, and now you have a category table. Let's fill with data. The first category will be PHP. These are the main categories. MySQL. If you're creating some kind of a database, it's always suggested to use categories in it. So, and the second table will be the second category. With 3 fields. One for second ID, it will be the primary key, primary and auto increment property, and it will be the trick. In this table, the second category table, we have to save the first category's primary key to make the link to be able to build a relation between these 2 tables. So the first ID goes here, and its type has to be as the first category's field property, integer type. But this field should not be primary key. It will be just a number from the first category. And second category name, let's use unique names, and its length is 255. What we have here, we have got a table to store main category names, and in the second category table, if I want to store subcategories in PHP, I have to save the first ID into the second category in the first ID field. This means let's have a new category in PHP. Let's call it PHP syntax, or in the PHP category let's have PHP functions. And if you want a new subcategory in the MySQL, let's save its primary key value, first ID, in the second category table. This technique is the foreign key, a foreign value from another table. Second category name will MySQL insert, and MySQL will have a new field subcategory called MySQL joins. And with this technique you can make an admin panel to fill categories and subcategories. How to retrieve when you're making an admin panel. It's always good to add categories. Let's have a create connection. I have here a page called phpcode.hu/mysql. Press here and just in this page you can get several there is a maintenance here, so let's list here the generators and select for example insert maker 1 and press generate. You will have here a connection. So open a new file and create here a connection. Connect.php. and connect to localhost. If you have paid host, you can write here the host's details for the MySQL, and username is root. My password is empty here, and my database name is subcat. Here we go. We can make an admin panel to handle categories. Let's call categories.php, open, and let's have a connect to the MySQL. Just include the connect PHP. So first you have to make a form to list the first categories. To do it, open a form with a method called post and close the form. Here goes a list box from the first category table. Select, its name will be first. And how to build here options. You have to make an SQL query from the first category table. Let's open a PHP block, make an SQL, select everything from the first category, run this SQL MySQL query, and if the MySQL numbers tells that there is a result, means MySQL numbers $result is bigger than 0, you can have here a while cycle and retrieve a row using the MySQL fetch as such. If you don't know why I'm using MySQL fetch as such, go and read php.net and search for this function. Search for MySQL fetch as such, and you have here lots of useful guide. This is the basic technique. Open a connection, write an SQL query from a table, run the query. If there is an error, you can handle here with this technique. If the MySQL numbers is 0, and here is the while cycle, and I'm gonna use $row to fetch the result array resource to get arrays, and these indexes from the row, $row comes from the first category field name. So first ID is going to be in the row, and I could echo options, option / option, and here goes the category name, and here goes the ID as a value. The first ID. Test here, and it's subcat 2, and here is the categories. See, it's very easy to understand. We are creating options inside a select input dynamically based on an SQL query. We'll have an option / option to tell select a category. And its value could be an empty when you load the page, you will see a select box, and we should make here a second list box, and what should be here as a value. Let's run a query and build options. If we have previously selected the first list box here, the second list box will have a name called second. Select the second category, and if we have a previously selected input, if this post first has set, in here we have an if condition. If the first list box has selected, run the second query from the second category table, and with the previously selected first ID you can make a filter where the first ID is equal with the selected first ID. You can use and sanitize your inputs. Integer val is a function to cast the incoming data. And you have to use second ID as a value here, and second category name goes into the option. But what we have here, we have two categories. If there is a selection, we should add an unchanged event on this select box. Select name is first and unchanged. Let's send this form. So you have to add the name for this form to be able to catch the form and able to submit with JavaScript. So name is form, my form, and in here when there is an unchanged event you can write here my form submit. See, and when you have selected from the first category PHP, now have 1 and 2. Let's have right here the second category name. PHP syntax, and when you've selected from the MySQL, you have here MySQL insert, and this reloads the page. So now we have to remain the first category and select again if the first ID is equal with the posted first value. So let's create selected. If we have set the first and this first value from the post is equal with the row first ID, let's gonna create a select variable, and this value will be selected is equal with selected. In other case, select will be empty. And if you write the select in here somewhere, and I'm always using apostrophes, and if you want to embed a variable into an apostrophe, you have to close and start the apostrophes again, and the select goes between the two apostrophes using the comma to truncate. So when you select it, you have here the PHP category, and previously selected remain the input, but in here we have the PHP categories. Let's call MySQL, and in here you have the MySQL stuff. Alright, and you can have several inputs here, and if you write to be able to remain the inserted inputs, like input type is equal with, for example, text, its name will be URL, its value will be a remained input. You can echo the post URL again. In the first run, the PHP URL is empty, so you have to write a URL and initialize in the first run. So if we have set the URL with a lowercase, that will the URL is equal with the post URL. In other case, URL will be empty. And when you select it from the PHP category, the URL where you write here. And with this technique you can add several subcategories. If you want, you can create a new table called third category, and you have to save the second category's primary key into the third table as a foreign key. So this was a really easy method to apply two levels as a subcategory. If you get a question, just feel free and add a comment below. Bye.